So I'll go ahead and jump in. We've already got a few questions. Before I answer the questions, I want to talk a little bit about Salesforce. I know we have some true beginners, what are commonly called freshers, people who are new to Salesforce overall. So the first thing I want to mention is Salesforce is a CRM system. So that still means nothing to someone who's new to this. So it's called a customer relationship management system. It does a lot of different things, but to put it in sort of a simple layman terms, Salesforce takes a business and it operates their back end. And what that means is it's not customer facing, it's not what their customers see for the most part. It is actually what the internal employees see and what the internal employees work within. So, what that means is Salesforce, why it's so beneficial, why companies are willing to spend so much money to buy this tool and then pay so much more money to actually pay people to administrate the tool is because of the value that it brings to their company. So what it does is it does everything from lead generation, targeting leads, figuring out who they want to work with, all the way to then strategizing on how to sell a particular product to those leads, to supporting the individuals who have purchased that product, all the way to case management if you have issues with the product, if you want to upsell and sell more of it, or if you want to pull reporting and analytics to figure out who is it that's buying this, how much are they spending, what's my average price per sell. All those types of metrics are massively important to businesses so that they can make business decisions and shift their business when things change. Just like with COVID-19, there are tons of businesses where things are shifting. Salesforce gives them a way to quickly run a report, see how things are changing. Is their target market changing? If they try a new marketing campaign, is that showing results? That's what this tool does at an enterprise level. It's very secure, it's cloud-based, people can do it from anywhere. There are a ton of benefits to utilizing Salesforce. So I think a lot of people, who may or may not be on this call have seen some of what I've talked about. And coming from my background, I talk about I work part-time, make 150 grand a year. It's 12 o'clock, so I'm already off work today doing this. I'm burning the midnight oil right now talking to you guys, right? So a lot of people hear that and they say that's too good to be true. That can't possibly be what I should be expecting. And I agree with that. You shouldn't expect to work part-time and make six figures right now. As a beginner, you're never going to do that. However, you should fully expect to walk into this career, focus, and get your certifications and be able to walk into an employer with no tech background and make 50K, 60K, maybe even 70K if you have, some type of tech background. Now, a lot of these numbers for me are coming from being in the United States. So anyone who's outside of the United States, you obviously have to adjust to how businesses function in your area, what salaries are like in your area. I have had a few questions about, well, what if I want to work for a company in the United States, but I'm not from the United States? I'm not the right person to ask. I'm definitely going to try to get in touch with some people, find answers to those questions. But right now, I'm not exactly the right person as far as what if I live in the UK? What if I live in India? What if I live in Australia and want to work for a US company in order to get US salaries? Not the right person for that. So most of the things I mentioned are going to be related to my very limited experience as far as working in the United States for US based companies. So sorry, I can't be more informative for those types of things. But obviously, I don't want to talk about things that I don't really understand. So I'll focus on that for now. Yes, David, it is a real chalkboard, and you guys are welcome for the t-shirt. All right, so I'm going to scroll back to some of the original comments we had. And it goes back to, we have a lot of beginners in this. And one of the biggest questions we get is, how do I go about getting my first Salesforce certification? That's clearly the biggest question for someone who is new to this. There is not a silver bullet. There's not a secret method. The best thing is prepare to be motivated, prepare to be focused, prepare to spend some time. This is not going to come overnight. It's not going to happen next week. But all you need to do is start your Trailhead account. And if you don't know what Trailhead is, I believe you just go to trailhead.com. Maybe somebody can post in the comments exactly what that site is. But I've got a video on how to start your Trailhead account. But it's pretty straightforward. If you just go to Google, Salesforce Trailhead, and you start an account. Everything is totally free. So everything I talk about is 100% free. There's no affiliates. There's no monetization of anything. Everything's free. You're never going to hit a paywall. The one time you will have to pay is when you get your first certification. You do have to pay $200 to take the exam. But other than that, there is no fee involved in getting your first certification. So moving through this, okay, so most people know my first tangible goal is getting my Salesforce certification. How do I do that? Number one place, Trailhead. Take the administrator, and I appreciate that, Patrick, posting there. So take the administrator certification exam. That's the first thing you're going to do. I know it's a little confusing when you first get in. You'll see there's like 20 different certifications you can sit for. The first one, it's a prerequisite for a lot of different certifications. It's your Salesforce Administrator certification. That's the first thing you're trying to get. There's actually a trail on Trailhead specific for studying for the Salesforce certification exam. So if you don't know about Trailhead, you haven't focused on Trailhead yet, that is the number one place to go to prepare for the exam. There are plenty of people who are going to try to sell you something for anything from $20 to $200 for how they have a better method to passing the Salesforce certification exam. And it's complete BS. There's nothing to it. It is going to Trailhead, following the trails, learning the information. Don't skip down and answer the questions. Don't rush ahead just because you know you can get a badge for guessing and moving along. There's no point in that. You're not learning anything. So make sure you're focusing when you're doing Trailhead. I know a lot of people, you're at home right now, you have kids in the room, you have a lot going on, but try to find, even if you have to go outside and sit in the car and work on Trailhead, do that to sort of escape so that you can mentally focus and you don't have to skip through it. That's the number one thing. That is the foundation to your career as a Salesforce professional. So take it seriously. With that in mind, if you take it seriously, we've seen that if you can do about 10 hours a week, so that's close to an hour, hour and a half a day. If you can do about 10 hours a week and really focus, then you're going to be able to pass your first certification exam in somewhere between 3 and 5 months is what we're looking at right now. If you have a tech background, you understand business processes, you might be able to do it a little faster. But if you are totally new, tech is not your background, you don't know a whole lot about business processes, then you're probably looking at the far end of that, maybe closer to 4 or 5 months to get your certification. And again, that's studying at about 10 hours a week diligently. If you're not consistently studying, then you are going to see that you're sort of losing that practice and you're going to lose some of those skills, and you come into it a couple of weeks later and all of a sudden it feels like you're having to refresh on everything. So that flow is not going to work well. So for everyone asking, what's the first thing I should do? Salesforce Administrator certification on Trailhead. Now, people who have already done Trailhead, I've seen plenty of people commenting about, I did Trailhead, everything was easy, it all made perfect sense. I went and took the exam and I failed it. Okay, that's totally fine. I remember seeing stats a couple of years ago that were like 60% of people who take the Salesforce admin certification fail it the first time. So you are part of the norm if you are failing that exam the first time. Once you take it, once you sort of have a feel for it. So the reason I'm telling you that is there's a site that many of you know about called Focus on Force. Again, we are not affiliates. This is simply something that works well for others that I am recommending. Focus on Force. They have one free administrator practice exam. I believe it's 40 questions. The amazing thing about Focus on Force is that it walks you through each question, tells you why you got it right or wrong, links you to Salesforce documentation on how to make sure you understand the content to get it right the next time. So you're not just memorizing answers, you're understanding why things are the way they are and getting a better answer next time. Now, you can pay for Focus on Force. I believe it's $19 for the admin pack. What that gets you, I believe it's 4 or 5 practice exams. These exams are very much like the real exam. The content is very much like the real exam. Again, that's $19. I'm not going to tell you it's worth it or not worth it. If you're struggling to pass the exam, then it's probably worth it. If you haven't taken the exam yet and you're just a little nervous or not confident about giving it your first shot, That's up to you. But I would recommend that if you're new to Salesforce, you've gone through the trailheads, you're feeling fairly confident, go to Focus on Force, take the free practice exam. If you do well on that, I would say go ahead and sign up for your, to sit for your admin exam. Go ahead and knock it out, especially now because due to COVID-19, the silver lining, some very tiny, small silver lining, is that now you can take the Salesforce exams online with your built-in webcam on your computer. So you don't have to have an external webcam. You don't have to go into a testing center. You can take it at home, take it with your built-in webcam. So the barrier to entry to taking this thing online is very low right now. So get in there, get it scheduled, and give yourself a deadline. All right. So now moving through, I've seen a couple of people ask about other exams. My advice is very similar. If you're looking at Sales Cloud exam, Service Cloud exam, Advanced Administrator, it's very similar. Go to Trailhead, take the trails specific to those exams, and then move forward into, if you're still not feeling confident or you sit for the exam and you failed it the first time, Focus on Force has the exact same test prep packs for those exams. So you can do a very similar route. Now, what I will say while we're here, give me 1 second, I'll grab some water. What I will say while we're here is I see some stuff online about test dumps, and you may even be approached for people to take the test for you. Number one, even if that were acceptable, it does nothing for you. If you have a Salesforce certification and you know nothing about Salesforce, even if you somehow weasel your way through an interview, you're going to get fired from your job because you don't know how to do Salesforce. So, you might get a couple of paychecks and ride it out, but all you're going to do is create a bad name for yourself. So don't skip it. It's Trailhead. It's Focus on Force. You might use some sites like Quizlet. But the answer is not buying Salesforce dumps off of someone or paying someone to take the certification for you. It totally defeats the purpose of actually getting a Salesforce certification, and it's deceptive and totally takes away from us who study to get a certification. It takes away from the value of the certifications that we're earning. So if you've taken that path or you're thinking about taking that path, I would strongly advise against it. You might get a certification, but it's actually going to do nothing for your career. All right. So I'm going to try to get into actually seeing these 38 comments that I can't scroll back to now. No. So I'll try to answer some of the stuff that I have already seen. So I think a lot of people ask, about looking for jobs in Salesforce. And if you're looking for a job in Salesforce, it can be a little disheartening because when you get in there, you're going to see a lot of job postings that say, you need 2 years experience, you need 3 years experience, you need an advanced admin certification. And then you're sitting here going, number one, how am I going to get 2 or 3 years experience? Number two, I don't see any entry-level jobs. Well, I've got some good news. Whoever wrote the template for doing a job posting appears to think that you have to do, you have to put 3 years experience as the baseline for any job posting that you put on the internet. It's ridiculous. And once you've moved to the trailhead, especially once you've gotten your first certification, you're going to be able to look at some of these job postings and it's going to say, needs the ability to create new users. We need them to do reports and dashboards. We need them to do updates to page layouts and manage our records and fields and things like that. And if you've gone through Salesforce, you're going to hear all those things. If you've gone through Trailhead, you're going to hear those things and you're going to say, okay, I understand how to do all those things. This job sounds like a perfect fit. And then you get down to the section where it says you need 3 years experience. And you go, oh no, they want somebody better than me. Let me back out and try a new job. Don't back out and try a new job. Apply for that job. I don't know what it is, but you should start noticing disconnects between the requirements on job postings. You're going to see things where the requirements for the job look like they are perfect for you. But then these ancillary things like you need 3 years experience or 3 different certifications and those don't fit you, that's perfectly fine. Apply for the job. Trust me, they are getting very few people with 3+ years experience who want to jump into a role that isn't challenging at all and is probably underpaying them based on what they need. So people with three years experience are looking for jobs that pay 6 figures, where this company likely has requirements where they want to pay someone closer to 50, 60K a year, depending on the area. So those are perfect jobs for you to jump into, apply for them. If it's way over your head, if they're looking for a developer, the requirements are way out in left field, and it doesn't seem like a good fit, sure, back out, go find another position. But for the most part, if they're looking for 2 or 3 years experience, a lot of times they're really looking for someone with a certification who knows how to use Salesforce and can jump right in. However, there are jobs where you might need some experience, or even for your confidence level, you might want to have some experience. So I've seen a few questions about, well, how do I get experience if no one's accepting anyone with less than 2 or 3 years? Well, what you do is you go to their websites like Taproot, Volunteer Match. So go to those websites, just Google Volunteer Match. You will find, and you keyword type in Salesforce, like 90% of the positions are going to be remote. So make sure you update the filters for remote positions, and you're going to be able to find volunteer projects. I would highly recommend, especially like a group like this, if you're learning this, you're not 100% confident, maybe team up with somebody else, maybe team up with a couple of other people who are new to getting their certification. So maybe you guys all just passed the exam in the last couple of weeks and you want to get some volunteer experience. How cool would it be to tag team a volunteer project with 3 junior admins so you guys can bounce ideas off of each other? You can come to the group and ask questions about it and make sure that you're doing the right things so that when you do these projects, you can actually hop in there, have success, learn a lot, create a network with these other people that you're tag teaming it with, do a great job for a volunteer project. And I'll tell you, about half the time when you do these volunteer projects, you need to draw a line in the sand and say, hey, this is the volunteer project that you signed me up for. I'm going to complete these 10 things that you needed done. We'll get those things done for you. We'll make sure it works well. But after that, you sort of need to say, hey, if you like me, you like what we're doing, let's talk about doing a contract, getting some dollars in place. Yeah, you're a nonprofit. I understand that you're maybe more sensitive to price, but hey, price sensitivity in the Salesforce world is incredible. When those nonprofits are going out and looking for help from a consulting firm, they're going to get the discounted rate of like $150 an hour, maybe $120 an hour. But if you come in as a junior level and you can walk in and say, I'll do this stuff for $30 an hour, $50 an hour, though you are going to be the lowest price they see. Now adjust it to what you're comfortable with. Make sure you're doing a good job in showing value, and you can build a network right out of tag teaming volunteer projects and building a network in the nonprofit industry by using websites like Volunteer Match. All right. Okay, so I see a question from Doug here. He said that he had looked on a site like Volunteer Match, he was ready to apply, and then he got a little scared going through the NPSP, which is the Nonprofit Starter Pack for Salesforce. If you're comfortable with Sales Cloud and Salesforce, you're going to be able to adjust to the Nonprofit Starter Pack. Don't let that scare you away that it's this nonprofit layer that's sitting on top of Salesforce. At the end of the day, it's very similar to Salesforce Sales Cloud. So don't let that scare you away. If anything, go ahead and accept the volunteer opportunity. That's going to give you that motivation you need to hop in and learn it. And it's a very low intensity situation where they're not paying you, you're helping them. So it's a great low pressure environment to jump in and get some experience and help somebody at the same time. All right. So to answer one of the, a question I see here, where are you volunteering? I have personally volunteered at a couple of groups because of the Lightning conversion that was going on the last couple of years. So I knew some nonprofits would be going from Classic to Lightning. So we did some free Lightning conversions for those guys. They only take 20 or 30 hours tops. So if you're doing a Lightning conversion from Classic over, those can be pretty quick projects. You can learn a lot about Classic and Lightning, get to know a client, and not spend too much time focused on doing free work. All right. Okay, so I think we've covered a lot of the major stuff. I know someone asked if we're going to post the recording. So yes, we are going to post the recording in the Learning Salesforce and Building Your Talent Stack Facebook group. So that will be there. So that should be good on that side. All right. So I know we have a lot of people here. I know a lot of people are new to the group recently. So I want to talk a little bit about setting pay expectations so that you're not blindsided when you come into Salesforce. Because you're going to see a few different things. Number one, you might Google and see some hype information about the quickest tech job where you can train for free and make 6 figures right out of the gates, which is clearly not true. However, this is an extremely lucrative environment. It's an extremely lucrative profession, and everything jumps up very quickly. So my first job, entry level, this was 10 years ago. I got paid $36,000 fresh out of college. To me, that was good money. A year later, I took my second job, making $60,000. Worked there for a year and a half. Took my third job, making like 75 grand plus bonuses, which ended up being around 90,000. And that was only at that point 2.5 years into my career. And then once I passed that 3-year mark, which seems to be pretty key, once you get over the 3-year hump and you've got a couple of certifications, you are likely going to be able to jump right into consulting if you want to. And at that point, you should be making 90,000 plus bonuses, which are going to put you in the 6-figure mark. And then as you progress, you're going to get skilled, more and more skilled, and be able to make in the mid 6 figures, even 3 to 5 years into your career. I know some people are going to look at that and they're going to nod and say, yeah, it is incredible. There's other people who are going to look at that and say, I've been at this for 10 years and I don't make 150 grand. So maybe you should ask some questions about how to do that, because there are a lot of Salesforce professionals that work in offices, their heads down, they get paid what the company pays them, and they never think outside the box to say, is there a better opportunity out there? Or am I doing well because I'm making good money, so I'm in a good place, so I'm not going to continue to expand my horizons? If you're a Salesforce professional with 3+ years experience and you're not making 6 figures, maybe PM me, ask some questions in the comments. You want to think about getting into consulting. If you're price sensitive, if money is what you're after, then getting into consulting can be a very good route for ramping up your income quickly. It's a higher level of responsibility, definitely a little more anxiety. However, it's challenging. You learn a lot very quickly. There's some good consulting companies out there where you can move in, make great money, get great experience, meet a lot of people. So that can be great. All right, so I'm going to read a couple of the recent comments. What is the good way to answer the question? All right, so I see somebody saying here, so Jason, I've had 2 interviews so far in Utah. They both ask what my salary expectations are. What is a good way to answer that question? Glassdoor and his connection seem to think $70K for an entry-level admin. So I happen to know Jason a little bit. So I know that he's got a couple of certifications, which is definitely pertinent. So when you're looking at what you should expect to be paid, there are a couple of different things. Number one, how much experience do you have? Number 2, how many certifications do you have? That only matters for the first couple of certifications. If one guy has 2 certifications and one guy has 10 certifications, but they both have 2 years experience, there's not going to be a huge pay difference there. But if one guy has 0 certifications and another person has 2 certifications and they both have no experience, there will also be a pay gap there where those first couple of certifications will jump you up the ladder. After that, if the client's looking for something specific like a CPQ certification or a PARDOT certification, they can be beneficial specific to the client. However, if you're just getting certifications to add them to your trophy, your trophy collection, there's really no benefit to getting certifications after your first 2 or 3 unless the client needs you to be specifically good at a certain area. So to finish up that thought about how much should you get paid, so for an entry-level job, if you're in a city, like a city center, like if you're in Georgia and you're in Atlanta, if you're in Utah, Salt Lake City, something like that, if you're working in a city center where there's a large population for an entry level job. I think 70K is fair. That's about as high as you should go, though. You're going to look a little entitled, like you're rolling out the red carpet, if you're sitting even in a city like Atlanta with no experience and a couple of certifications, and you're asking for 80K, something more than 70K. You're going to look a little entitled there unless you have maybe a tech background where you can say, hey, look, I've been a developer, where I've done development on this other site, this other platform, and now I want to move into Salesforce development. You might have an edge. So you have to know yourself a little bit. If you truly have no Salesforce background, you have one certification, and you're going in for an entry-level job, I would say you need to be realistic in that you're probably around the $50,000 mark. If you have management experience, business experience, some other tech background behind you that might make you more qualified, you could probably push up closer to a 60K junior level. But number one, that should sound amazing for most professions. But number two, don't let that deter you. The starting salary is what you get for year one. That's it. So if you're coming in at 50K and you're going, that's not what I wanted to make, good news. 1 year in, you're probably going to jump up to 70K. 2 years in, like I said, you can start moving into consulting and making six figures. So don't let that first year that you're having to put in, or those first couple of years that you're having to put in, deter you from a lifetime of making six figures. All right, so just got a question from David. Is that remote? So I will say the typical path is for a junior level administrator with no background experience. It is much easier to get into the Salesforce game by being on site for your first job. Whether that job is 6 months, a year, 2 years, it's much easier to get a job if you're willing to be on site. And that can be a great way to get that first year under your belt. And then again, don't let that deter you from the rest of forever that you're going to make 100K, right? So put in the investment, do the first year in office. Don't ask somebody to roll out the red carpet for you on day one. First year in office, first year making 50, 60K. You have no background in this. And then amazingly, you're going to fast forward a couple of years and you're going to be making 100 grand. So don't ask people to roll out the red carpet or walk in with sort of an entitled mindset at your first job. Be mindful of that. I know it sucks. I know you might want to be remote today. I know you might want to make 100K today. But be realistic, put in that first year, and then from there, the sky's the limit. And you'll look back on that first year and go, I'm glad I put that work in. All right. Yeah. So Ferris asked, does general sales marketing background help? It absolutely helps. Any background material that you can move from any job that you have in the past, if you can take that and you can somehow rationalize that as experience that could be beneficial to a client. So for instance, Salesforce administrators don't just sit in Salesforce and create new fields. They're fielding requirements from users within the business, and they're having to translate that into Salesforce. So that's your job. It can be hugely helpful if you have a sales and marketing background where you can say, hey, the marketing department just asked for some changes to Salesforce. I might have some advice that would help them better make that change, to think about it from a business perspective, from a scalability, long-term perspective for the company. That type of advice, that type of background absolutely helps. So if you think like a junior level certified guy just came out of college, has no work experience at all, he's coming in at 50K. But if you have a business background, especially a management background where you were dealing with business processes, or a background where maybe you were an end user for Salesforce, so you're aware of it. But just having that certification is showing that you're passionate about this, you're willing to self-learn, you're motivated, focused, you can jump right in. Much easier than someone saying, I want to be the new Salesforce admin, but I don't have a certification yet, but I'll get there. You're already way ahead of that person. All right. I'm reading a couple of the comments here. Yeah, absolutely, Jacob. Thanks for joining in. We will have the recording posted on the Facebook group. All right, so David says, if we're not looking for high paychecks necessarily, just supplemental income, is it realistic to think an admin cert I can work remote part-time? Yep, so I think a lot of people who have come in here reading about my background or coming from maybe the Choose FI podcast and things like that, They hear that I work part-time as an admin and make solid money doing that, right? So yes, it's possible. Now, going back to what I was just saying over like the last 5 minutes here, um, working remote, usually you want to do your first job on site. Working part-time, probably the same thing where you want to get a little bit of experience full-time. The other side of that is if you do some stuff on Volunteer Match or other volunteer sites and you get some experience under your belt, get a couple of certifications, it's possible. If you're not price sensitive and you're saying, hey, I don't necessarily want to make six figures, I'm making a lifestyle play here. I just want to work part time, maybe 20 hours a week, enjoy my life, and only make 40K a year. That's totally reasonable. The people you want to go after, these are going to be small companies. 100 employees or less is typically what you're going to look for. The reason, they're very price sensitive. So you have a company that has budgeted $90,000 for a Salesforce administrator full time. And you come in the door and you can pitch to them and say, look, I know you're hiring for a full time guy. Here's what I can give you. I promise you I will get the job done. Whatever your full time guy was going to get done in 40 hours, I'm going to get it done in 20 hours. And instead of paying them $90,000, how about you pay me $50,000 and you get to save this huge chunk of your budget. And that is huge for small companies. Are they going to be skeptical? Absolutely. They're going to say, wait, you think you can do a 40-hour-a-week job in 20 hours? How are you going to prove it to them? All you have to do is say, let me do a 2-week contract with you. I'll work 20 hours a week for you on a 2-week contract. If you hate me, I'm gone after 2 weeks. If you love me, you just save $40,000 or $50,000 a year. I got what I wanted, you got what you wanted, and now you can go hire another person to do an entire another job because I just came in here and proved to you that I can do a full-time job in half the time. Now, some of you may be asking, how on earth am I supposed to deliver on a full-time job in half the time? Well, if you've ever worked in an office before, the day starts at 8 o'clock, but people are rolling in at 8:30. They get there at 8:30. They talk to their coworkers for a few minutes. They grab coffee, they grab water, they check their personal emails, and then they get started at 9 o'clock. They cut out for lunch at 11:30, and then they're supposed to be gone for an hour, but they really get back at 1. All those things, it's 4 o'clock. They're doing the same old thing where they're talking to their coworkers, watching a couple of YouTube videos about how to quit their job and start their job in Salesforce. And then they're leaving, right? So there's like an hour at the beginning of the day. There's an hour at the end of the day. And there's probably an hour in the middle of the day somewhere where these people aren't even working. So all you have to do is sit down and focus from 8 o'clock to 12 o'clock and do the job. And I promise you, you will do a full-time job in half the time. Now, if you walk into a company and say, I can do it in half the time, and then you're supposed to be there at 8, you show up at 8:30, you're supposed to leave at 12, you leave at 11:30, and you chat with coworkers from 10 to 10:30, yeah, they're not going to like you. You're going to get let go because you're not fulfilling what you said you could deliver on. But if you can sit down from 8 o'clock to 12 o'clock, deliver a full-time job in half the time, then that is a huge win for you. It's a huge win for them. And you've got from 12 o'clock to 10 o'clock the rest of your day to do whatever it is that you want to do. And then, a year later or a couple of years later, you can talk to that company. Again, they're not going to want to give you a raise because they're price sensitive, right? So negotiate for Fridays from home, and then negotiate for Thursdays and Fridays from home, and then negotiate for fully remote. That is exactly what I did. And that is how you move from a place where you're doing something that's very fair to doing something that is hugely in your favor over time. All right, so I'm going to try to go through a couple of these. All right, so Kiara asked, is it necessary to get my certification before finding volunteer work? Yeah, I would say so. You're going to go through a very similar process. The last thing you want to do is walk into a volunteer project, screw up their org, and make a bad name for yourself. And a certification is a great way to prove to yourself, as well as a company, that you're prepared to walk into the org. When you go in, expect in the volunteer world, it is a great place to train because they're still going to interview you. They're still going to want you to prove that you are capable of working in their org, and they're still going to expect you to get the job done. However, it's not nearly as intense. There's not nearly as much pressure. It's a great way to start your career, get some work under your belt. That way, when you're walking into interviews to make, 50, 60 grand, you can sit there and go, yeah, I've got experience. I've worked for a company that did this, this, and this is how I solution for specific problems. And all of a sudden, you don't just have a certification. You're clearly really good at what you do. All right, so let me hop in here. Patrick Martin just asked, what are good resources for searching for jobs? Not trying to promote myself, but I just did a video on this earlier this week. I can't remember, I get mixed up. But anyway, just did a video on how to search for jobs. I believe it's posted in the Learning Salesforce and Building Your Talent Stack Facebook group. So check that out. The bottom line is LinkedIn Jobs, Indeed.com. Those are the number 1 and 2 places to search. LinkedIn Jobs is the best. Quick pro tips, don't filter, just do the keyword search. Filters sometimes knock people out. Like if you say, only show me junior roles, but then all these people are posting jobs calling it a mid-level or expert role because they don't know anything about Salesforce, so they think it's like this expert job. Don't filter things out. If you're looking in your local area, you're probably only going to get 20 or 30 results anyway. So move through those, find the ones you're looking for. Keyword search, Salesforce, Salesforce admin, Salesforce analyst, things like that, and you'll find jobs that are a good fit for you. But check out that video. I go into a lot more detail about exactly how to use these tools to search. Let's see, we've got a question. Working for Salesforce, the company versus consulting admin for other firms, pros and cons. Working for Salesforce themselves, I do not know. I have never done that. However, I, as a person, enable Salesforce by promoting them as a profession. I enable Salesforce by working for customers that use their tool, things like that. Salesforce, from everything I can find, it's a great company, incredible benefits. Their community outreach is huge, especially if you just Google Salesforce in the news. All you're going to find is amazing community outreach that they do, especially on the West Coast, which is where they're based. I think the pay is great. It sounds like the internal training is great. If you want to go work for Salesforce, awesome. That's not the path I decided to take. I figured working for one company versus working for, they have 150,000 plus customers out in the real world. But that doesn't mean there's a right or wrong decision there. It's just the route I went. All right, let's see what other questions we have here. Scott asked, could you make a video on how to pitch yourself to a small company as a part-timer, how to target companies, how to reach out? Yeah, I think that's a great video, Scott. So I'll actually take that down right now, even though I can go through this later. So I'm going to do a part-time pitch. So yeah, I think that's an excellent idea where we can bring that information in for you guys. That's a big question for people who have a little bit of experience, or they're looking for a lifestyle change as opposed to making more money. Part-time is a great way to make solid money and also have, you know, a ton of flexibility in your everyday life. All right. So Jay says, I've got a year of experience in another CRM. So before I even finish this, that's exactly what we're looking for when we talk about, hey, I don't have any Salesforce experience. And Jace right here is saying, I've got a year of experience in another CRM. So he's already skipping ahead with background information here. And he's got an admin certification. And now we're getting too many comments and it's gone. So I don't know what the question was. Let me see if I can figure out how to use this. Again, my first time on Salesforce Live, so I'm going to try to find that comment. All right. It looks like it's easier on the phone than it is looking. All right, I found it. All right, so he's got a year of experience, 2 years. Oh, and he's coming up on 2 years with Salesforce. Holds the admin cert and just recently added App Builder, Advanced Admin this week. Wow, okay, so you're really, I think you're ready for this. What you said earlier about salary experience certs stuck with me since my salary doesn't reflect that. I'm interested in trying to build a consulting portfolio as well. Yeah, so we can definitely connect offline. Feel free to PM me on Facebook or LinkedIn or wherever else. I can help you with that. Yeah, so if you can relate to Jace, if you're somebody with a couple of certifications, you've got 2 years experience with Salesforce, another year of experience with another related technology, yeah, you are ready to definitely level up. If you're not making 6 figures at that point and money is your motive, then that's where you want to be. You want to move into consulting or start looking at other jobs. Remote positions are definitely a possibility for you at this point. So if you want to work remote, you want to make 6 figures, You've got 3 years of experience and a couple of certifications. Yeah, you're ready to take the plunge. Let's see. Any possible dilution in demand salary with lots of people jumping in? So, David, this is the flack I catch from all of my friends in the Salesforce space. They say, hey, Brad, you're doing all this outreach. And let's say you actually start influencing people and you get people to jump into this thing. So the number one thing I say to my friends is, hey guys, we're already 5 years into this thing. People jumping in 5 years behind us are not going to dilute our ability to do work. The other thing is, as long as you are top notch and you're doing a good job, then you shouldn't worry about what everybody else is doing. If you are focusing and you're nailing your job and you're doing the right thing for your clients day in, day out, there's not going to be any question there whether or not you are valued. Now, I think there's a solid piece of this that says, okay, but what if there are, today in 2020, there are 30,000 certified administrators, and then because of all this outreach you're doing, next year there are 50,000 certified admins, and it almost doubles, and now there's this workforce out there. I think there's something there, but you have to keep in mind that Salesforce is adding more and more clients every single day. Salesforce is growing as a company every single day. There are more and more expertise that you need to know specific to, like, maybe you want to focus on marketing automation, maybe you want to focus on CPQ, all these other varieties. And here's the thing too. If I can sit here, work part-time and make $150,000 a year, and I can do outreach to help other people get this job, and that dilutes my pay down to $100,000 a year to work 20 hours a week, I think I can live with that. I don't want to get to this point where, we can't make any money. But the thing is, Salesforce is not, it's not this thing you're going to walk into and it's just as easy as, I don't want to write off any other professions, but let's say being a cashier or something like that. It's not as easy as sitting down in front of a machine and punching in numbers and taking money and scanning items. It's not that simple. There are going to be people who come into this and they get overwhelmed. There are going to be people who come into this and they say, I'm not a tech person, I can't do this. There's going to be a lot of walking away. On the other hand, there are going to be people who can do maybe an entry-level Salesforce position, but then they just hit this kind of mental block where they can't level up and get better and better and better. I think there's plenty of space in the market for Salesforce administrators, Salesforce developers. There's always, a movement around where you can find a niche. So yeah, I mean, if I got a huge following and somehow convinced a ton of people to jump into this career, we're looking at a group of 1,000 people right now. If the group doubled and we got 2,000 people to jump into this, you're going to see no impact. If the group, went up to 20,000 people and we got 20,000 people to do this, you might see a minor impact. But overall, I'm not too concerned about that. So Patrick Martin asked, do you think any of the Hubspot certifications might be beneficial for obtaining jobs with less experience? Yeah, HubSpot is not uncommon with Salesforce. So people use HubSpot and Salesforce right beside each other. There are a lot of tools like this. If you've ever heard of other tools like Marketo, Pardot, HubSpot, these are all like marketing automation tools. So if you have certifications in other technologies, that is never a bad thing. If you can come into a junior Salesforce role saying, hey, I've got a Salesforce admin certification and I've got 2 certifications in these other related technologies, you've already got a leg up. So yeah, I think those are feasible. Let's see. Not making 6 figures, Jace is coming back. Money is my motive. Well, that's good. All right, so I think we'll have good news for you then, Jace, and we can talk about that. And we'll follow up with the group. If we have some of these success stories, then we'll definitely follow up with the group and let, maybe we'll talk, Jace. We'll get you lined up with a new job making 6 figures. And then you can do a quick, video to the group, letting them know how amazing life is now. All right, so Gabe says, I've been trying to mentor 5 friends who keep saying, I don't want to make money. I told them to take this path, I want to make money, sorry. I told them to take this path, telling me the path that Bradley just said 15 minutes ago. Number of takers, okay. All right. Yeah, I mean, if you have 5 friends who want to jump in on this, yeah, I think I don't know if that's a promotional post or if you're seriously, asking for 5 people. But on the other hand, uh, you are going to hit a lot of flack with this. I hit a ton of flack with this. When you're trying to promote this message to other people, half the time people think I'm scamming them. They're like, "Oh, tell me more about this MLM scheme that you're running. Tell me more about this thing that is obviously too good to be true, and that you want me to help. Somehow I'm going to charge them for something or make them pay for something, which is just not the truth." So what happens is I think that 99% of the time, if something sounds too good to be true, it is too good to be true. However, don't let that limit your belief that when you hear something that sounds too good to be true, that you just write it off. Um, Especially whenever I'm out here talking to people about, hey, everything's free, free training, free everything. Come dip your toes in and see if you like it. And then people are still saying, yeah, what are you trying to sell me? It's like, I just told you everything's free. If you walk into a paywall or I ask you for money at some point, tell me to get lost. There's no harm in jumping in. So yeah, you are going to hit a wall when you talk to friends and family about this. It can be frustrating. A lot of you people come from the financial independence community. It's a very similar thing. It's another too good to be true story, right? If you save X number of dollars a year and you keep up with your expenses, you can retire in 5 years. Sounds too good to be true. It's not. Same thing with Salesforce. Study, get your certification in 3 to 5 months. Everything's totally free. Do a volunteer job, hop into your first job making 60K. 3 years later, you're making 100K. Sounds too good to be true. It's not. You just have to try it. The same thing with a lot of things. If you start today, you're going to be way ahead a couple of years from now. If you look back 2 years from now and say, what was that Salesforce thing again? You're already way behind. You may as well start today and see what you can do. Okay, I see your comment, Gabe. Sorry. So yeah, looking for 5 relatives, trying to help them out. Yeah, you're exactly right. And that's the stuff I'm talking about, is that you hit these walls with people and you say, I'm telling you about this path that is so great. And you just get online and you train. And then they'll get on Trailhead for a week. They'll get a couple of badges. They'll say that's really cool. And then they move along because they lack the grit. And then going back to, I don't remember exactly who asked, but somebody said, are you worried about diluting the Salesforce workspace? I'm not, for exactly the thing that Gabe just mentioned. He's got 5 people he's trying to get involved with this thing, and they're not doing it because they don't have the grit, they don't have the discipline, they don't have the confidence to sit down and say, I'm going to learn this thing, this is the real deal, and I'm going to improve my life. So you're going to, I would say 80% of the time, maybe 90% of the time, that's the case. So if we get this message in front of 100,000 people, we're still only going to have maybe 10,000 that even take it seriously. Probably not even that many. All right, so let's see. Please be intentionally uncomfortable. Yeah. So yeah, that's a perfect way to phrase it, David. There are plenty of paths to success. It requires some focus and work. This isn't give me $100 and you're going to make $100,000 for the rest of your life, or let me show you how to buy this and sell it for more, or whatever. This isn't a gimmick. It's not a game. It's a career path. So if you want to make quick money overnight, this isn't it. If a year from now you want to make a lot of money and have a career for yourself and your family, this probably is it. So it's all about that. Amit asks, is age a factor when applying for junior level? I am 37. That's an interesting question. I'm not going to say no. I will say that 37, probably not, especially if you have a background in something else. I'll also say this, coming into Salesforce, they have sort of this Ohana mentality where they keep everybody tight-knit. There's a lot of love and trust for each other. A 37-year-old coming in and saying, hey, I just became a part of this Facebook group where these people are helping each other. I got my Salesforce certification learning all by myself online. I'm part of these YouTube groups, these LinkedIn pages, these local communities. I am ready to knock this out for you, and I'm passionate about Salesforce. They're not going to turn you away just because you're 37. If anything, you're probably in a solid age range where they can take you seriously because of your age, but they don't have to pay you $100,000 a year because you're junior. So it's sort of a perfect fit when you're jumping into it to probably be in your 30s jumping into this thing. Now, if you're in your 50s, you might hit a bit of a, I'm not going to say it's not out there, where if you're in your 50s and you're trying to jump into a new technology and you don't have a tech background, I'm not going to pretend that you're not going to walk into companies that say, oh, I'd rather work with the young tech guy than work with the 50-year-old who came from some completely unrelated background. So that stuff's out there. It sucks that it's out there because there are plenty of qualified people, no matter what their, age, race, ethnicity, all that kind of stuff. It doesn't matter. If you're a qualified professional, it doesn't matter if you picked this up when you were 18 or picked it up when you were 58. You can be qualified to do this stuff, and hopefully the certifications will stand as your justification there. Ian says, how long would you say it takes to become a proficient admin? I get this question pretty often. My ballpark number is about 3 years. When I was a year into this, I thought I knew everything. When I was 2 years into this, I thought I knew everything. When I was 3 years into this, I was smart enough to finally figure out I know a lot. I'm really good at this. I don't know everything. I'm never going to know everything. So all I can do is focus, keep learning, keep getting better, and every day wake up and know I don't know anywhere close to everything. So the best I can do is get a little bit better today and do what's right for my clients. So Chen says, do you say we don't need experience if we pass the exam? We don't need access to Salesforce to get certified or pass the exam. Is that common? Yep, that's exactly right. So going back to, that's a fairly beginner question. Perfectly fine. We have a ton of new members. So questions like this, don't be shy to ask because we need to answer these questions. So when you sign up for Trailhead, you are going to get access to a Salesforce org. What that means is that is Salesforce. If you think of it as the program on your computer, you are in Salesforce, 100% free. All the training's 100% free. You have access to an org just like Amazon.com and Coca-Cola are using, except for it's right out of the box. There's nothing customized in it. That's for you to go train in. So you don't need a background in Salesforce. You don't need a background in anything. I'm working with a 17-year-old right now who's finishing up his senior year in high school, and he's going to be certified. He's already signed up to do a certification test in June. He's going to blow it out of the water because, I know how much he knows. He's doing an awesome job. So yeah, do you need a tech background? No, you don't need any background. You can have a high school diploma and go run into this thing. And before I move on, let me mention that I had a couple of questions about, do I need a degree? You do not need a degree. If you have a certification or two and you walk into a job and say, hi, you're hiring for a Salesforce administrator. I have a Salesforce certification. And that person says, yeah, but you don't have a 4-year degree in whatever. If they're looking for a 4-year degree in computer science or business technology or something like that, they may have a point. If they're looking for any old 4-year degree, then I can pretty much guarantee you are not going to hear that. And if you do hear that, you probably don't want to work for them anyway. If they want a 4-year degree and they value that more than a Salesforce certification, then they've lost their minds if they're hiring for a Salesforce admin. So it's up to you to be confident to talk that track and say, you know what, no, I don't have a 4-year degree because I opted to move right into making money out of high school. Now on my own, I've earned Salesforce certifications online, and I am the right fit for your company, and this is why. Sorry, I didn't sit in English 1101 like the person you want did. So anyway, if you're worried about a 4-year degree, don't worry about that. The certifications are going to speak for themselves. Let's see, got a couple of more questions here. Yeah, Amit has 11 years experience in sales and marketing. Make sure, I've got a video about making sure your LinkedIn profile is up to date. Check out that video about updating your LinkedIn profile. Make sure you take those 11 years of experience and make sure you call those out and highlight that to show that, okay, I've got a Salesforce certification, no background in Salesforce, but I've got a background that can definitely help, especially if you're moving into a company where they're using Salesforce mainly for sales and marketing, which is very common. Let's see. Celine, was obtaining the Sales Cloud Consultant certificate easier than the admin certificate? All right. Yeah. No, unfortunately, the admin certificate, it's hard because it's the first one you're going to do. However, it's also the easiest exam in my opinion. So the administrator certification is the entry-level certification. It's tough because if you don't come from a tech background, That is a ton of new information. So it's going to be a tough test when you take it. Now, you can jump right in. Excuse me, let me grab some water. So you'll probably be able to jump right into the Platform App Builder exam and pass that right away. It's very similar to the admin certification exam. I don't know why they have two different exams there. They're very similar. Now you're asking about Sales Cloud, or was it Service Cloud? Let's see, yeah, Sales Cloud. So Sales and Service Cloud are pretty similar as far as the intensity goes and how difficult they are. They're both pretty specific. You have to know the textbook definitions of a lot of things. You're going to get more into like limitations of different areas of Salesforce. Again, like I mentioned earlier in the video, do the Trailhead modules on Sales Cloud. If you're still not 100% confident, maybe check out Focus on Force and their practice exams for the Sales Cloud certification, and you should be in good shape there. In my opinion, though, looking back, admin is the easiest exam, but I get that there's a block there where it's because there's so much new information that it feels really difficult at the time. But when you look back on it, it's going to be, you're going to, know that, okay, those were pretty easy questions in hindsight. When I got my first job, how much did I know? I did a post about this the other day, or a comment about this, like, what is your Salesforce story? I came out of college, I wanted to be a financial advisor, but yeah, I found out that financial advising is not what I thought it was. And I started applying for anything and everything. So I applied for a job as a junior Salesforce administrator, and I didn't even know what Salesforce was. I had no idea. So the day I started on that job, I mean, it was like deer in the headlights. I had no idea. In my first 2 or 3 months on the job, I wanted to quit because it was too overwhelming. I did not come from a tech background other than just being a millennial. So it was very overwhelming. I wanted to quit. I was lucky enough to have some mentors who said, stick this out. This thing is going to make a life for you. At the time, I didn't know they were right, but they were the only people who were telling me what to do. So I thought, okay, I'll listen to these guys. We'll see what happens. I would say about 6 months into that first job, everything started to click and I started getting confident. And then, like I said earlier, a year later, I was going, I know everything about Salesforce. So yeah, it can be difficult jumping into your first job, but yeah, it's my first job was definitely not some story where I came from a computer science degree and knew that Salesforce was my path all along. All right, Jacob says, he began a Salesforce journey mid-Feb, passed the 201 exam and App Builder. Should I keep chasing certs? Nope, I wouldn't worry about it. If you haven't gotten your first job yet, focus on a job way more than you're focusing on certs. Focus on doing volunteer work way before you focus on certs. So I'd get on Volunteer Match or some other comparable websites, start doing some volunteer work, you're ready. There's almost a nuance there where if you have like 5 certifications and you've never worked a job in Salesforce, I wouldn't say it's a red flag, but it's an interesting piece of information when you're all stacked up on certifications, but for some reason you don't have a job. All right, let's see. So money, hours, potential sounds good. What do you like, not like about the actual work? Good question, Matt. Yeah, so there's a lot of things I like. I'll talk about what I don't like. With any job, you're not gonna like something, right? And all you can try to do is mitigate the things that you don't like. What do I not like about my job? It can get pretty intense, especially because, like I mentioned, I'm trying to fit basically, a full-time job into a 4-hour day. So it can get pretty intense as far as having a lot of requirements going on, having a fast-paced, I'll say. That's fun. That's a lot of fun on Monday and Tuesday. Sometimes on Friday, it's not a lot of fun. So it just depends on your aptitude to take that information in. And to constantly be moving. A lot of people are going to feed off of that. I would say I am the type of person who likes to be busy. So as much as I complain about it, it's probably what makes me love working in the Salesforce world. What else don't I like about it? It's really not Salesforce that I don't like. It's anytime you're working with people directly, there's going to be these communication nuances. There's going to be expectations that maybe a customer has that are totally unrealistic. You might just work with somebody who's argumentative or unrealistic. I mean, it's stuff like that. You're going to see that everywhere. So that's not specific to Salesforce. That's specific to working a professional job. What do I like about Salesforce? I could go on for days. Again, keeps me busy. It's always challenging. If I'm not busy, I can work in Trailhead and try to get more certifications, which further myself. They're better for me, also better for my clients. I love that entire relationship of I can grow myself, which makes me better at what I do, but I'm also growing my clients and what they're capable of. And then, of course, now there's a community and an ecosystem where I can come out here and have relationships with people and help people and do things like that. So, yeah, there's so much in the Salesforce world that I love. At the end of the day, I can't tell you that I've ever heard of another job that I would prefer to be doing. There's some things that sound fun, but when you do something 40 hours a week, I think everything probably gets a little, just repetitive. Let's see, what should be the Salesforce certification journey if you are a computer graduate with experience in technologies and want to become a consultant? Yeah, short answer there. Just like anything else, your first certification, hop on Trailhead, start your account. We've got a video about starting your Trailhead account on YouTube. Get your first Salesforce admin certification. You came from a computer science background. You might, with a computer science background, be able to jump right into consulting as a junior consultant or like an apprentice. However, the typical path is probably going to remain the same. You might make a little more at your starting salary. You might be able to come into the game at like 60 or 70K at your first job, and then pivot up to over 100K pretty quickly. However, you're going to get on Trailhead, get your Salesforce admin certification, land your first job, probably get a year of experience, maybe 2 years, and then move into consulting. Google Salesforce consulting firms. There are a few out there. There are ones that suck. There are ones that are great. I'm going to do a video about picking a consulting firm because there are some nuances, like you get paid bonuses annually, quarterly, monthly, how you get paid, how you get bonuses, things like that. So consulting is pretty different depending on the consulting company you're working for. So if you're looking to work for a consulting company, make sure to, don't assume that they're all the same. Make sure that you're looking into them. Look at reviews on Glassdoor. Make sure you're making a good choice in the consulting company you pick. All right. Gabe says, not to mention the pain in keeping up the cert 3 times yearly. Good news, Gabe. They just updated that this week. We had one of our members, Bill Kimberly, actually sort of like broke the news to our community. You now only have to update your certifications once a year. So that's good news. However, you are exactly right. If you have like 10 certifications, you have to update all of those regularly. And that can become a pain. Keep in mind, if you have the admin cert, Sales Cloud certification, Service Cloud certification, you only have to upkeep the admin certification, and that trumps the rest of the certification. So if you upkeep your admin, there are other certifications that are automatically upkept with those. And if you're new to Salesforce, we used to have to pay $50 a year per certification to upkeep them. So then it was a real pain. I think I've got 6 certifications, so it'd be like $300 a year to maintain them. Now you don't have to pay an upkeep charge anymore. So that's like some new stuff to Salesforce. So now it's once a year maintenance exam and no upkeep. So pretty cool stuff there. All right. I should say no upkeep charge. All right. Couldn't find me on LinkedIn. Sorry. I think I might be weird like I am in Facebook, where I have like Bradley Michael Rice. I've got my middle name in there. So you can search Bradley Michael Rice, try Bradley Rice. You should find me. If you don't, just PM me and I'll find you on LinkedIn, or just comment in the post and I'll find you on LinkedIn. All right, let's see. I will say too, if you're trying to find me on LinkedIn and sending me messages and stuff, LinkedIn, I probably check that once a week as opposed to Facebook, which I'm checking on a daily basis. So if you want to connect with me, I sort of use Facebook as my professional social site anyway. So you may not find me on LinkedIn quite as avidly as you'll find me on Facebook. All right, so Celine says, I'm currently a project manager, got my admin cert back in February. I've been having a hard time finding a job. Everyone needs 3 years experience. How could I ever get a job that way? Yeah, so we talked a little bit about that earlier. Make sure you check out the video that I posted. It should be on the Learning Salesforce and Building Your Talent Stack Facebook page. but also you can look it up on YouTube. It's called Career Force is the name of the channel. But the point is, if they say they want 3 years experience, ignore all that stuff. If the requirements look reasonable for you to do, you've got a Salesforce certification, ignore all the other stuff. Everybody's asking for 3+ years. It's ridiculous. I think they have like one person who's got this copy paste template that they're putting in there, and everybody's just going off at 3 years. Don't worry about that. I'm not saying that you're just as qualified as someone with 3 years experience, but I am saying if they're looking to pay someone 60 or 70 grand with 3 years experience, they're not going to find them. So go ahead and hop in, apply for those jobs. If they don't, set you up for an interview, what's the harm? So if you see 3 years experience, ignore all that. Look at the requirements. If the requirements look like a good fit, apply for the job. What is the scope of Marketing Cloud? So Marketing Cloud is its own beast. I'm not going to dive too deep into that. I believe it's a B2C, which means business to consumer marketing platform where you can communicate, do any kind of marketing automation. That's email blast, social listening, tracking people with cookies when they navigate through your web pages, things like that. So it's an entire marketing platform, huge scope. That's why they have specific certifications just for Marketing Cloud. So yeah, a ton of information there in Marketing Cloud. So we've got Kat joining us. Hi, Kat. She is one of our 5 people, so glad to see you in here. I just joined, so I am sorry if this is redundant. How long does it take to obtain a certification? So we probably have a few people that joined late, and this doesn't hurt to reiterate this. I appreciate you linking the YouTube channel, Brandon. That helps a lot. So getting back to your question, Kat, typically 3 to 5 months to obtain your Salesforce certification if you are studying at about 10 hours a week. So if you have no tech background, no business background, I would say expect to be closer to 5 months if you can dedicate 10 hours a week to studying. If you come from a tech background or a business background, then you can probably expect closer to the 3 to 4 month side of that, studying 10 hours a week. Yep, that's right. Now, if you can study more than 10 hours a week, you may be able to ramp that up a little bit. If you have to do less than that, I would just say, even if you can only do 30 minutes a day, do 30 minutes a day, whatever, that's 3.5 hours a week. It might take you 6 or 8 months to get the certification, but something is better than nothing, and consistency is better than doing 20 hours this week and 0 hours next week. So stay consistent, don't burn yourself out. Don't get discouraged if you fail the certification test the first time. That is very normal. Use groups like Learning Salesforce and Building Your Talent Stack, and you're going to grow. You're going to figure this thing out. So that was the first part of your question. 3 to 5 months to get your certification typically. After that, landing your first job will come fairly quickly. If you have a network in place with your current position where you know some people who work for other companies that might already use Salesforce, you might be able to introduce Salesforce as a tool to your current company. You might be able to get an edge in there and get a job very quickly. Otherwise, we have people who are members of our community that get jobs. The flow is get your certification, update your LinkedIn profile, start applying for jobs. You should be getting interviews within a couple of weeks. I think some people see different results. It's just a matter of search for jobs effectively, make sure your LinkedIn profile looks sharp. Those are the 2 key things to landing jobs. You can get in touch with recruiters if you want to go that route. Sometimes they can help, sometimes they just blow smoke. It's with anything else. If you find a good recruiter, they may be able to help. Join your local Salesforce communities. Anything you can do to network will help get you in front of employers more efficiently. So I think that's pretty much it to cover that topic. If you check out our YouTube channel, which I know Brandon posted on here, Career Force, we do have the LinkedIn profile videos. We do have the how to search for a job efficiently videos up. We're also going to continue doing 2 videos a week. We are focusing on things that are pertinent, 100% useful to this community. So you'll notice we've only got like 5 or 6 videos right now, but those videos are key to the questions that you guys are asking. And we're going to keep bringing videos that are 100% key to this. Now, eventually we are going to sort of fill the gap, and we're going to have enough information for beginner Salesforce people trying to get their cert, or people moving into getting their first job. We're going to have like plenty of information on that. And then we're going to move into people who are already experienced in Salesforce, moving into contract roles, consulting gigs, starting their own consulting companies, all the paperwork, non-disclosure agreements, design documents, all those types of things, how to start your own LLC for a Salesforce company, all that kind of stuff we're going to jump into. So just bear with us. If you feel like, hey, I'm a little advanced for these conversations, we're going to get there. But we're trying to hit the biggest piece of our audience first before we move on to what's extremely important, but also just not as big a piece of our audience. All right. Let's see. All right, so we got a good question here. I'm gonna drink some water before I answer. I'm sorry, I know we're rolling over on time. So if you guys need to drop, you can. I'm gonna hang on and try to answer questions as long as we have, I see we have 28 people live right now and questions rolling in. So as long as you guys are here paying attention, then I'll continue answering questions. All right, so we got a question here. Briefly explain what the day in the life of an admin looks like. Clearly, there are varieties of this, depending on what company you work for, if it's manufacturing, software, what type of company it is. Typical day in the life of an admin, whether you're remote or not, doesn't really matter. Bottom line, you're going to sit down in front of your computer 8:30 in the morning. You're going to check your emails, see if you got any Salesforce requests or updates from other things that you put in. You're probably going to have a task list of requests that you've had prior that you need to go update. When we talk about requests, we're talking about got some new users we need set up. We got somebody who quit yesterday. We need to deactivate them. We've got some new pick list values we need in some fields. We've got this kind of weird thing that happens sometimes, and maybe we need to build an automation around it to make it work correctly. You're going to be fielding all kind of requests like that, and it's going to be your job to be the source of truth for sending feedback to them and saying, hey, that's going to take me 2 or 3 weeks to get that done. Hey, that's a really easy solution. The way we have it built is already pretty close to that anyway, so a quick tweak and you look like a magician, and they thought it was going to take all day and it took 10 minutes. So the great thing about Salesforce is typically it looks like this magic thing that happens behind the scenes. So they're going to look at you like you are like some miracle worker magic man because they don't feel like wrapping their head around Salesforce. So they're going to say, hey, can you add a new field to help us capture a specific date? And for anyone who knows about Salesforce, you're going to go, my object, new field, date field, name it, save it, done. And then you're going to say, okay, I just finished that up. And they're going to respond and go, holy smokes, how did you get us this new way to capture information already? You're amazing. And so anyway, a day in the life, it's fielding request specific to Salesforce and maybe helping some people think about strategy for solving some unique solutions. So that's one of the fun things is that businesses will come with these very unique solutions or problems. And they're going to lean on you to say, how can Salesforce solve this problem for us? And those get pretty fun, and you can do your research. You can hop on and ask groups like this how to solve for those problems. And again, you look like a superhero day in, day out because you're the Salesforce magician and you're also the business expert. So that may take 2 or 3 years to get to a point where you feel that way, but that's really where you're headed. All right. Is it best to go through recruiters or apply directly through the company? So I'll talk a couple of perks here. I want to make sure I don't miss out on anything. Right, awesome. So it looks like Oscar and Celine both asked for a couple of updates about going through a recruiter. All right. Yeah, so going to a recruiter can be beneficial for a couple of reasons. The number one reason is if you find a good recruiter, find a good recruiter. Search for recruiters like you search for a real estate agent. Don't just take the first guy who says, I can get you a job. When you're looking for a recruiter, you're looking for someone who wants to form a personal relationship with you. They want to know you as a person because culture fit is very important for anything. Look for someone who understands your expectations. They should be asking you, how much do you want to get paid? Do you want to work on site or remote? Make sure you're communicating those things to them because those are the things they need to be looking for in companies to apply for you. What they should be handling for you is actually submitting you to companies that are a good fit for you. Here's the thing about recruiting. You can apply for jobs on your own and work through a recruiter at the same time. Now, your recruiter might get a little mad at you if they found a job for you, but it turns out you've already applied. Then they're not going to get paid if you take that job. So they might get a little frustrated with you, but it's not actually going to hurt you. So you can apply to jobs while you're working with a recruiter. If you step on each other's toes, then that's really your recruiter's fault. They should have found the job first, and you have to do what's best for you. So recruiters can help because they can get feedback. They work for a client. So for instance, they might be hiring for a specific position for one of their clients, and they recommend you, and they recommend 3 other people, and they hire someone else. Well, they get feedback from the client where they get to say, why didn't you hire Brad? I thought he was a good fit. And they can get feedback saying, well, he doesn't have any background experience. He's only got 1 certification. He worked in a career path that wasn't related to our industry before this. So there are a few different things. And you might just get an email from the client saying, sorry, we went with someone else, and that's it. But when you work with a recruiter, you might get some more feedback that you wouldn't typically get. And I would demand that of your recruiter. If they say, hey, I put you in for this position, and then they come back and say, hey, you didn't get it, I would say, hey, I'm working through you for the benefit of getting better feedback. Can you talk to your client and have them tell me why I didn't get that job? So if it's a certification, I'll go get another one. If it's, I don't have enough background experience, I'll get on Volunteer Match and do another project. Whatever it is to help me level up and get into these positions so that this does not happen again, you have a better edge when you're working with a recruiter. However, that doesn't mean you shouldn't work and find these jobs on your own. The recruiters also do some of those awkward conversations. So if you're not comfortable going to somebody and they say, how's 60,000 sound? And if you're not comfortable saying, I think I'm worth 65,000, and I'll tell you why. If you're not comfortable with that, working with a recruiter can be a great way to do that too, because you can go back and you can have them negotiate for you. They'll set expectations between you and the client, and nobody has to be the bad guy. The recruiter has to play the middleman. So there are some benefits to working with recruiters. Again, don't just pick the first one you find. Make sure you select a recruiter, talk to them about what they're going to do for you that you can't do for yourself, and make sure that you trust that answer. Bring that communication over to the Facebook group, and we'll talk about it, and we'll walk through it with you to help you, make good decisions for your career path. Let's see. Got a comment here from one of the members. I would love more videos and tools, resources like the templates you mentioned. I have a year of experience working as an admin. Thanks so much for creating this resource and advice. I'm the only Salesforce person in my company, so that is a valuable resource. Thanks again. Yep, absolutely. So we will, like I said, we'll be doing 2 videos a week. We're going to release those on Wednesdays and Sundays, trying to bring valuable information. I would ask that if you're watching the YouTube channel, if you're finding value, make sure to subscribe and like the videos. It doesn't do anything for me. Again, none of the stuff's monetized, but it does get this in front of more people. It gets it recommended to more people so that we can help more people, right? So it has nothing to do with me caring how many subscribers or likes I have. I'm still going to do this either way. It has everything to do with being able to show that we're credible and that we have good information and that people should look at it as a credible source. We will continue to bring stuff. We got a couple of videos coming out for like what to expect in interviews, pay expectations. We're going to do some things about how to do volunteer work and how to find projects for volunteer work, as well as ways to study for your Salesforce exam outside of Trailhead. So we're doing a few different things, definitely trying to hit that market. I call it a market because I work in Salesforce all day with business, with processes. But and then we're going to move into things like helping people who are already experienced Salesforce professionals level up in their career to things like contracts, consulting, creating an LLC, starting your own consulting company if you want to do that, how to do like payment terms, statements of work, non-disclosure agreements, and design documents and stuff like that. So we're definitely going to be providing content there. Just stick with us for the next couple of weeks and we'll start getting stuff that's a little more of a variety and not just so much for beginner Salesforce people. All right, so I still see we've got like 30 people on. I don't see any recent comments or questions. Is there anything I guess at this point, I know some of you may have come in late. We're gonna post the video on the Facebook page. We're also, this went really well, a ton of comments, a ton of engagement. I appreciate that. So with that being said, we are definitely gonna do another video next month. And this is gonna be posted in Facebook, but we'll get on there, we'll do another poll. The next video is gonna be on the weekend. The live stream is gonna be on the weekend. That way, maybe some of the people who can do weekdays can hop in with us. But we're always gonna post in the Facebook group. So if you wanna ask questions and you can't join, that's totally fine. We'll answer your question, we'll post it live. So we've got a couple of questions here. Jacob, you mentioned you only work 20 hours a week. What does your typical week look like? I don't know if that was already mentioned. That wasn't mentioned. We talked a little bit about the fact that I do only work 20 hours a week. We'll go ahead and jump in here. We'll answer both these questions at once. How do you manage to squeeze your whole day into 4 hours? Both awesome questions. So we'll answer those back to back. What does my day look like? I start at 8:30. I try to wrap up by 12:30. Sometimes I'm done at 11 o'clock on a slow day. Sometimes I do have to work until, say, 1:30 on a busy day or a busy week, go live for a client, something like that. So there are busier weeks. You know, my typical day is I sit down around 8:30 and I get up and I leave around 12:30. I really am heads down focused the whole time. That's how I get the job done in 4 hours. I don't want to sound arrogant. I'm good at Salesforce. So the requirements that the clients are having me do is typically something that's fairly easy for me at this point. So I've been doing this for 10 years now. It's fairly easy at this point. So there might be things that take some people an hour to do, and I might be able to do it in 10 or 15 minutes. So you can see how as you gain experience and confidence in Salesforce, very quickly you can do things that yesterday they took you an hour and today they take you 10 minutes. So as you grow, as you get better, you will find that you can do a full-time job and probably, you know, something somebody does in 40 hours a week, you'll be able to do in 10 hours a week. It's just about continuing to grow and getting better at what you do. So it helps. It's much easier to do a full-time role in 20 hours once you've got, you know, 2 or 3 years experience and you're getting a lot better at what you do. Let's see. Yeah, so that's the same question for how did you manage to squeeze your day in 4 hours? It comes with experience and it comes with focus. Get experience, get good at what you do. If you don't know how to do something, don't ignore it, get better at it. And then focus, sit down, work. Don't play on your phone, don't check your personal emails, don't pay your bills. When you sit down to work, already have your coffee and water with you. If you need to take a bathroom break, take a bathroom break, but don't play on your phone all day. So it's that kind of stuff. It's just about efficiency. If you want to do an 8-hour job in a 4-hour day, you can do it. You just have to focus and sit down and work. I did my admin certificate through Mike Wheeler, but I wonder if there are other instructors better. I can tell you, I don't know a whole lot about Mike Wheeler. I hear good things. I've heard questionable things. I am digging into his content to try to determine if that's someone I want to recommend. I do recommend Focus on Force. I think they are very well priced for what they deliver. They're not trying to like rip you apart with $200 for whatever. It's like 19 bucks. And it is beneficial. So again, I'm not an affiliate. I have no relationship with them. Maybe I should. But they actually have good content as far as practicing to take the exam. Trailhead, the best place to learn the information. Focus on Force, really good place to practice the Salesforce exam. How can we get real-time experience if you are from non-IT background? We talked a little bit about that, Cal. So typically get on sites. If you have a Salesforce certification, hop on sites like Volunteer Match, and you'll be able to get connected with companies who need a volunteer to help them. That's the best way to get real-world experience without being able to apply for some of these first jobs. We also talked about if you see people saying they want 2 or 3 years experience and you don't have that, that's okay. Go ahead and apply for the job as long as the requirements look reasonable to you. Okay. Excuse me. So Chen, yep, you're absolutely welcome. We'll be doing this again for sure. If you have tips on how to increase efficiency, that would be amazing. Yeah, I can talk about that. It'll definitely be like an ancillary video to help to help people just trying to speed up their day of work. Yeah, but that's a good point. I'll take a note for increasing efficiency. Yeah, I think that's smart. The number one thing is just be real with yourself. Um, put your phone like a good 10 feet away across the room so you can't reach it while you're working. Put it in airplane mode. Turn your notifications off. Pull your emails up on your desktop. That kind of stuff. It just keeps your mind focused. Let's see. Very helpful. All right. All right, awesome. So it looks like we're just getting a lot of thank you posts, which I really appreciate that. I'm glad this sounds like it was very useful to the community. If you have any follow-up questions, this isn't the end of communication. Post on the Facebook group. And if you can do one thing, guys, it's communicate on the Facebook group. That's so that when new members come in, they see that we're active. They see that we really are a community of people helping each other. They see that we're not spamming each other with, hey, buy my test dumps or buy this from me or watch my YouTube channel. We're a community of people building content to help each other, right? So if you can do one thing, hop on there, comment, ask your questions. Don't feel like you're stupid for asking questions. I'll be on there answering questions, and there are a lot of other talented people that can answer questions too. The second best thing you can do, like I mentioned earlier, hop on the YouTube channel, Career Force. If you like the content, subscribe. If you don't like the content, give us a thumbs down. But either way, engage on there. Like it, don't like it, subscribe, comment that you hate it, comment that you love it. But please comment. It creates engagement. It shows that we're a valuable resource, and that makes YouTube actually present it to other people. So if they search how to find a job in Salesforce, we can be one of the first videos that come up, or at least one of the suggested videos. And that's huge for us to spread the message, right? Again, we're not trying to make money. We don't have any affiliates. We don't monetize anything. We're literally just trying to spread the word and help people. So I hope it doesn't sound like I'm promoting this for selfish reasons. So Kat mentioned she has dreams to expat. She's noticed Salesforce groups in other country. Yeah. So if you're from another country trying to get work in the United States, I do not know how that works. I assume you can just apply, but I bet there are caveats or people wouldn't be asking. I know that there are like labor laws and having to be a U.S. citizen and all that fun stuff. I don't have information about that. If you know someone who would be good for that, please comment. I would love to interview like a human resources person or whoever's qualified to answer that type of question. I know that's not your question, Kat. So if you're doing it the flip side, then I think this is going to be easy for you because you're already a U.S. citizen. So if you get your experience here in the United States for U.S. companies, and then you pop over to, where did you mention, somewhere else like Ireland or New Zealand, then yeah, you can just keep consulting for U.S. companies, or you can just work remote for U.S. companies. As long as you arrange with them to work the hours that you need to work. Sorry, getting a call, gonna decline that. And you work the hours you need to work, you have to work that out with them, obviously, because there's a time zone difference. But that's all about you and the client working that out together. But as far as I'm concerned, as long as you're a U.S. citizen, you can move wherever you want. You can travel the world as a nomad. Doesn't matter. As long as you have internet, you can log in, do your job. You should be good to go there. I may have missed your question, Jason. Let's see. Not sure if you saw my question. I'm deciding which route to choose between developer, admin, and consultant. So I would say what you're really choosing is whether you want to be a developer and admin. Consultant is just a choice. You can be a developer consultant, or you can be an admin consultant, commonly called a solution architect. I am what I would call a solution architect. I'm not a developer. I don't write code, no programming, anything like that. That's just another world for me. There's plenty of things to do on the admin side. Being a solution architect, designing process flows, building out things like process builders, updating page layouts, training people, doing all that fun stuff. There's plenty of work to be done in that world, so I just stay in my own little box. I do have developers that I work with, so it's important that I be able to communicate with them and understand their world enough to communicate. But other than that, I have no programming background. So which role am I? Yeah, so I'm a solution architect. I would call that the administrator role. If you like development, if you like programming, if you think you might like writing code, by all means, go the developer route. They get paid a little bit more than admins. But if you're not sure about code, it scares you, then start as an admin and you can move into development if you choose to do that later. Let's see. All right. Yep. No, Kat. Yeah, the remote aspect is huge. We traveled the U.S. in an RV for 6 months in 2018, I think it was. Might have been early 2019. I can't remember. Anyway, I think it was 2018. We did a 6-month RV trip. We never came home. We never stopped traveling. I never missed a day of work. So yeah, as long as you can find Wi-Fi, or you can even tether to your device, then you can be a Salesforce consultant wherever you want to be. Okay, so I'm going to wrap it up. It looks like everything's toning down. I see we're dropping in our viewership a little bit. So again, we'll post this on the group so everybody has access to it. We'll get something scheduled for next month. We'll do it on a Saturday more than likely. Thank you everybody for joining, and I look forward to doing the next one.